This video is sponsored by Fabric Wholesale Direct, but we'll talk more about them later. Let's go ahead and get to the video. So I'm going to start by draping. I'm draping this time like I do in most of my videos, but I will have a couple videos coming out soon that will be off of drafted patterns for those who like to draft on paper. But like I always do, I'm pinning down the center front and then I'm smoothing down to the princess seam and just placing pins all around. And I'm not going to talk much on this part because I always talk about the same things. So I'll just let you guys go ahead and watch. Okay, so now that I have the center front and the side front piece on there, now I'm going to pinch them together and pin up and down the princess seam. I like to start like towards the middle and then work my way downwards and then work my way back up to the top.
I shouldn't have spoke, 'cause you didn't feel the same way about me, and it's eating me alive all of the time. So I'd rather keep my distance from you. You don't gotta lie to me to get through. Push and pull me off into the deep.
You also want to make sure that you're snipping notches into the bottom of your pattern pieces to make sure that they're laying nice and flat. And then after you snip the notches, then you want to kind of smooth that excess into the side seam. I find that really works for me. Excuse the snoring. If you guys hear any snoring, my little baby's really sick, so I am doing this with him laying on my chest. And now I am doing my neckline. So I'm kind of drawing this by eye. I didn't really measure this one out. And then I'm just drawing here where I want my mesh panel to be. And I'm just going to continue this neckline. I kind of didn't like the way this neckline turned out here. I actually would have liked it to be a little bit more rounded, but I went with the shape anyway. And I'm hoping that I can kind of adjust it and work with it in the end. And then obviously you want to make sure that you're marking down your side seam and your waistline and your princess seams. You can also mark a few notches here, which will help you align them in the future. Sponsor of today's video is Fabric Wholesale Direct. You guys know I've worked with them quite a few times in the past, and I've never had a negative experience with them, including purchasing the fabrics myself. Never had an issue. So today I'm using their matte satin in white. And spoiler alert, this is the first white wedding dress I've ever made. Most of my wedding dresses are like off-white and ivory colors. So I decided to go with a white this time, and I have not regretted it since I've opened the package. I really do love their fabrics. It's not like stark white, but it is white. I also love that on their product pages, you can go ahead and look at what the fabric actually looks like. They show you a video of what each fabric looks like, and I think that's really helpful when buying fabric online. It doesn't matter what kind of sewing you do, they have fabrics for every kind of sewer, okay? If you make prom dresses, they have lots of fabrics for you guys. They have the milliskin, the sequins, all that good stuff. Sorry, of course there's a car interrupting my voiceover. One of my favorite fabrics that they have is their cotton broadcloth. And I absolutely love the cotton broadcloth for underlining as well as draping because it gives you the crispness of the muslin, but it's a lot thinner, so there's a lot less bulk. I absolutely love their broadcloth, guys. So go ahead and check their website out, and let's go ahead and get back to the video. Okay, so I'm going to drape the back now, and I do recommend that you guys drape the back here in two separate pieces rather than in one piece like I'm doing here. It just comes out a little bit more accurate that way. So I am just putting it in one whole piece and smoothing it to the side seam and then snipping in at the bottom. And I have no idea what happened to me drawing in the neckline, but here it is. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut around it. And then I'm just making some adjustments to my princess seam there. But like I said, it would be easier if you guys did this in 2 separate pieces rather than 1. And I'm just going to go around the pattern and draw some notches in, which will help me align it better in the future. Okay, so I transferred all my pattern pieces to paper and then I cut them all out of fabric. So I have my front bodice piece cut from the matte satin, and that layer is interfaced. That will be our outer layer. And then I have my lining cut out as well, which is not going to be interfaced. And then I have my back pattern pieces cut from my satin face organdy that I had left over from my wedding dress. I don't recommend you using this, guys. It is a pain in the butt, and I will find that out later on in the video. I also cut out my little mesh panel piece, which I ended up changing anyway. And then I cut out some straps and pockets that I made with my hand. So the first thing I'm going to do is assemble the front bodice. I like to make a snip at my center front. And then I like to install my mesh panel, just like how you would install a invisible zipper. So I put it right sides facing, and I line it up to the top notch that I made. And then I just kind of pin it all the way down until I hit the center front, and then I sew that seam. And then I go back and kind of shimmy it so that the right side of the mesh panel is touching the other side of the neckline, the right side of the neckline. And I sew that together as well. So essentially exactly how you would sew in an invisible zipper. Now, sometimes if you have a problem with getting the puckering, if you get puckering at the center front here where you're using this method, it would also be a good idea to sew this by hand so that you have a lot more control, but you just make sure that you're using a nice tight running back stitch instead of a regular running stitch to go ahead and sew this. So that's what I like to do first. I like to install my mesh panel first, and then I will go ahead and sew down my princess seams. And now I'm sewing down my princess seams. So I start by aligning my bust notches, and then I pin upwards. I leave the bottom open and I just sew it together at the machine. I don't like to pin the bottom just because, I feel like there's no point, but if you feel like you need pins to go ahead and make sure that everything is aligned, then by all means. Sometimes it is a lot easier and a lot more accurate when you use pins, but us lazy folks out here tend not to use pins when it's not entirely necessary. So I'm going to sew both of my princess seams for the front as well as the princess seams for the back, and then I'm going to go ahead and start assembling my skirt. So I'm also going to take this time to assemble my straps. So I'm going to sew them together with a 1 centimeter seam allowance. I'm going to turn them out, press them flat, and then set them to the side for later. Okay, so here's the bodice. I tried it on the dress form just to make sure it fits, and it does. I have a little bit of looseness there at the top, which I think will be corrected when I sew the bodice to the lining. So now that I have this done, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the skirt. Okay, so I'm assembling my skirt. Now, I didn't go over how I did the pattern piece, but I will explain it to you now. So for the skirt, it is just a basic A-line skirt. What I did was measure the bottom of each pattern piece and times that by 3, and that is the waistline of each top of the pattern piece. So let me explain further. On my center front bodice pattern piece, for example, it was 3 inches wide. It's just example, 3 inches wide. So I multiplied that by 3 and I got 9. So the waistline of the center front piece of the skirt is 9. I hope that makes sense. The reason why I added extra is because I wanted to pleat down the fullness into the width of the bodice so that the top is pleated and the bottom has that standard A-line shape. And I did that for all of the pattern pieces. So the side front pattern piece, I figured out what the waistline of the bodice was, multiply that by 3, and that was my new waistline for my skirt. And then I just cut the A-line shape as wide as it could go for the bottom of the skirt, and that's how I got my A-line shape. I hope that's clear. Here it is. All kind of pinned. I have like a inverted box pleat at the center, and then the sides are gathered down temporarily. This, I just wanted to see what it's going to look like. I'm trying to figure out how to distribute the fullness of the extra that I allowed for. So this is still kind of a work in progress. I'm actually wanting to add some of this sequence here as an overlay for the bodice. So that would mean I would have to unpick the mesh panel that I've already put in to add this, and then put the mesh panel back in, which I think I will probably do with no problem. I love this sequence. I got it from Joann's, 50% off, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching my video. Make sure to stay tuned for part 2, and I'll see you guys in my next one.